Hi everyone and welcome to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. I've been wanting to have this chat for a little while now, and it's one of those videos I just haven't quite got round to. And I feel that I'm at the stage with my sketching where I can impart some knowledge based on the experiences I've had as a beginner. I wouldn't class myself as a beginner anymore, but I don't really think I'm an intermediate sketcher. I don't know. What I do think though is that human beings tend to have a very short memory, and when it comes to passing on advice and knowledge, very experienced artists tend to forget what it's like to be a beginner. So I thought I would remedy that by giving you my top 10 tips to begin sketching. So without any more fanfare, let's get to the first tip. And number one is just get started. Don't mess about with buying fancy pencils or you need this type of paper. That just find a common or garden HB pencil, a reasonably good eraser that gets rid of the graphite, something to draw on, and a sharpener that will sharpen said pencil. That is all you need to get started, and it's one of the wonderful things about drawing. You don't need a lot of equipment, you don't need a lot of supplies, and you can more or less do it anywhere. And it's the main reason that I enjoy graphite sketching more than any other type of art, because it's so simple, it's so accessible, and you do not need to spend a lot of money to do it. So if you're thinking about starting sketching, go and dig a pencil out your kitchen drawer or wherever it is you keep the pencils, in the place where they go to die quietly, and bring them back to life. Find a scrap of paper to draw on. I know people that carry about ballpoint pens and scribble on napkins in restaurants and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, as long as you have a drawing surface, something to draw with, and if you're really lucky, a sharpener and eraser. That is all that you need, and you can just get started. Tip number two is to draw regularly, and I'm sure you'll have heard it a bagillion times about every single hobby or pastime or passion that you've ever had, and they say, if you want to get good at something, you've got to do it every day. If you were to do the things that you're trying to learn, or hobbies or pastimes, every single day, there would be no hours left in the day to go to the supermarket, feed yourself, feed your family, take your kids to school, go and put fuel in your car. You do not, in my opinion, need to draw every day to become a better artist. In the space of the year and 3 months that I've been drawing, I have improved dramatically, and I have not drawn every day. What you do need to do is you need to set aside some time for yourself on a fairly regular basis. Now, for some people that might be 2 hours once a week, because that's the only day they have to do it, and other people it might be 10 minutes every other morning. The point is, it doesn't matter, but you need to get yourself into the habit of drawing and keep that on a regular schedule. I wish I had time to draw every day. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, I might have time to draw every day, but then that would be kind of like counterproductive, wouldn't it? So set aside some time for yourself on a fairly regular basis, and you can easily improve your drawing skills once you get into that habit, and that is very, very, very important. Obviously, the level of improvement will work on a sliding scale with the number of hours that you put in. So if you have a spare hour every other day, you will improve faster than if you only have a spare hour every 2 weeks. But that's okay, it's not a race. There's no reason for you to want to get through everything and all of a sudden be a master artist in the space of like 3 weeks, because it's not going to happen. Spoiler. Number three is to set yourself a realistic expectation. It's very easy to get swept up in a new project or a new hobby, and especially if you're inspired by artwork and things that you see round about you. If you have never picked up a pencil and sketched, you are not going to be able to spit out a photorealistic drawing after 3 weeks. It's not only is it unrealistic, but you're setting yourself up for failure. So when you start to sketch, try and create a goal or an aim in your mind's eye of where you would like to be, say in 6 months time, a year's time, 2 years time. really think about it and think about your starting ability, because that varies greatly from person to person. Some people do have a natural aptitude for drawing, or some people will call it a natural talent. But the thing about sketching is that it is a skill. It can be learned. Anybody can learn to draw. Some people will have to put in more time and more effort than others. Those that are born with a natural talent to draw may find the first part of the learning curve a lot less steep than those that have never picked up a pencil. That doesn't matter. You're not comparing yourself to anyone else. So have a good think about what you want to do and what you think you can do and whether you've had any experience or not, and set yourself a realistic goal based on that. Now that leads me nicely on to tip number 4, and that is to start simple. The drive and the want to create these beautiful, you know, works of art it's so fiery, and it's right at the forefront of your mind because you're enthusiastic, you're fresh to this idea. Once again, a bit like setting expectations, do not set yourself up for a fall. Now, I'm not saying that you're not capable of doing a complicated drawing, but you have to underpin the basic skills first. So when you decide whatever it is you want to sketch or you want to try to sketch, don't think about a piece with lots of focal points or a really complicated background. Start with single items or single objects and make it your job to focus on that and really take time over it, because when you practice those things and you start with simple pieces, that's what helps you build up your knowledge, your experience, but also it lets you see where you're going wrong. And it can just be one thing if you're working on a simple picture, but you can see it and you know that it's wrong, and you can learn to hone that skill to fix whatever error it is you see. If you have this massive picture that's multimedia and you've sketched this and then you've coloured this and you've painted that and you've shaded that, it becomes very overwhelming and it's very difficult as a newbie to figure out what's actually wrong with your picture. So by keeping your pictures simple and just focusing on one subject at a time, that's something that's really going to help you in the long run in terms of building up your complexity in your actual artwork. Number 5, I still do these all the time. You can never, ever, ever practice the fundamentals too often or too much. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Yes, they're boring. Yes, you get fed up doing it. And yes, it leads to a not very exciting outcome. However, every time that you sit down and do drawing practices, drawing exercises, drawing drills, and funnily enough, I tend to do them on a Sunday when I'm nice and relaxed. If you persevere, every single time you do a set of exercises for sketching, it makes you more confident in the shapes or lines or whatever it is you're drawing. And what happens there is you become quicker at it. So once again, when you move on and start doing more complicated pieces of work, if you have drawn a circle like 50, 60, 70, 80,000 times, you're going to be able to put down the size of that circle and the shape of that circle, whether it's a perfect circle or an oval, it doesn't matter. You will be able to do that really, really quickly, and that means you can spend more time on more complex aspects of your sketch. So it is really important that you practice, and it is something that is really going to benefit you much further down the line without even realising it. And it's something that I'm starting to notice now. When I have to do my basic groundwork for a sketch, I am so much quicker at it than I was when I first started. And the scroller challenges, which I'm sure some of you have seen me do, when I first started doing those scroller challenges, when I was first learning to sketch, they took me hours. I mean, they really did. And now, once I've got an idea in my head, I can get the groundwork down for one of my scroller challenges in like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It's such a fundamental skill. So practice those goddamn boring exercises and I promise you it will be worth your while in the long run. Tip number 6. This isn't really a tip, this is kind of a cheat, sorry. Become an observant person. I am lucky in the sense that by nature I am a very observant person. I always have been, but I realised that being observant was very helpful when I started to write, not sketch, because if you are aware of the world around you, it really helps you when you're trying to imagine things in your head, and that doesn't matter whether you're writing or drawing. It works for both, but particularly for sketching, because that's what we're focusing on. Come on, stay focused, Jim. If you look at the things that are around you in the world, be aware of how the sun hits things, watch the sunset, watch how people walk, look at the patterns on people's jackets, all these kind of things. Just open your eyes, put down your mobile phones and your iPads and stop scrolling and look at the world around you, because it is a never-ending source of inspiration, and also it's what you're aiming for. Even if you're going to like draw dragons for the rest of your life, there are aspects out there in the big bad world that will help you learn to draw really awesome dragons, and it could be the scales on a snake or a lizard or all of these things, but having that observation will help you learn to draw. Having that ability to be aware of your surroundings is something that will be very helpful. It might not help you straight away initially, but it will lead on to better things. I can see a pattern forming here with these tips, can't you? But it's something that is really helpful, and it doesn't cost you anything. And you can store away all these things that you see, and it can be a lady that's got pink hair, and when she sips her coffee when you're in the coffee shop, she sticks her pinky up. You can store that away in your memory bank, and then in 6 months time you can totally pull that back and think, oh, I'm drawing a person in this pose, wouldn't it be cool if they had their pinky up? And you've already got an idea in your head of how to do that, because 6 months before, when you're sat in the coffee shop gabbing away to your pals or scrolling on your phone or whatever it is you do in coffee shops, you took the time to look at this random woman who had pink hair and a pinky in the air as well. So be observant, take in your surroundings and stop looking at your phones. Number 7, I am going to completely contradict myself here, and I just knew this was going to happen. Do not be scared to draw from reference. When you are beginning to sketch, you haven't drawn things before, and you're not going to know how to draw something unless you look at the thing that you need to draw. Even the most experienced, well-versed artists still use references. As a beginner, it is good to copy from references. If you are going to put those pictures out in the public domain, aka the internet, always make sure that you reference the source material and give the original artist credit. That is so important. It's basically the bro code for artists, if you're not already aware of that. There is no shame in copying a picture that you find on the internet. There is no shame in it at all, because you are learning. It's important to do things like that because you need to learn. But if you share that work, make sure that you credit the original artist. Once you get a little bit more advanced, you may look at a reference photo for something you've never drawn before, and for me that was dragons. I had never drawn a dragon, and I had like this sort of wishy-washy idea in my head of what a dragon looked like, but when it actually came to drawing things like shoulder joints and like where the tail comes out behind the back legs, I was like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing here. So I went onto the internet and I looked up some references. Two of my favourite places for references are to go on to Google and just go to images and type in whatever it is I want, and just scroll through until I see something that's maybe close to the pose or the shape or the angle of whatever it is I'm drawing. I find that very helpful. Other places as well that you can get these types of pictures from is from Pinterest. So what you'll find happening eventually is that although you are using a reference picture to draw whatever it is you're going to draw, you're not actually replicating exactly the reference picture. You are just using it to refer to make sure that you've got an angle right. So say for example it is a house with a garden in front of it, and you think to yourself, I have got no idea how to draw a thatched roof. So you go onto Google or whatever and you find a house with a thatched roof. You are not necessarily going to draw the entire house exactly the same with the same door and the same flowers poking out the garden. Of course you're not. But what you will do is you'll look at how the angles of the thatch sit and look at the texture, and you will add that in and sort of smoosh it in with your own idea, and you will draw your own garden. Therefore it is an original piece of work, but you have used a picture to refer to help you shape and structure the part of the drawing that you weren't sure how to do. So you go for it, knock your socks off and use all the reference pictures that you want. That brings me neatly on to tip number 8, which is you have to draw what your eyes can see. Now that sounds really ridiculous, I know. The way that the brain and the eyes work together is actually very, very deceiving, because when we see something with our little naked eyeballs, we actually only take in a basic outline or basic colours of a shape, and our brain fills in the blanks. Now this has been proven time and time again scientifically, and one of the most interesting examples of it is, if you have ever seen, you've probably seen these posts on Facebook and things, in the written English language, as long as you have the first and the last letter of the word, you can jumble up the letters in the middle, and if you try to read a sentence, your brain will unjumble those letters for you without you having to physically sit and work it out. So your brain's filling in the confusion and the blanks for you. It's no different with visual stimuli, and what happens there is that when we start to sketch something, instead of observing for a longer period than we actually have our eyes on our paper drawing, we do it the opposite way round, because we think we know what something looks like. It's like, I'm going to draw a lampshade. I know what a lampshade looks like because you can picture one in your mind's eye, but just because you can picture one in your mind's eye doesn't mean that you're going to draw the one that's actually in front of you. It's a really common mistake for new artists and new sketchers in particular, and it's something that I still struggle with quite a lot, because my brain's telling me, oh, you know how to draw this, you know, you've seen one of these a million times, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but am I actually looking at the subject that I'm trying to draw? And 9 times out of 10 the answer is no, I'm not. I'm letting my brain draw it for me. I'm not using my eyes. I'm not letting my eyes take over. So take the time and spend more time looking at what you're drawing than actually looking at the lines that you're drawing. And it sounds bonkers, but once you actually start doing it, really observe things before you put those lines down the paper, because I can guarantee your brain will try to trick you into drawing what you think you can see rather than what's actually in front of you. Alright, number 9, draw everything. And I know that might be a contradiction as well, actually, because I said earlier to start simple, but what I mean by that is don't stick to one subject matter when you are starting out. It's important to draw a variety of different subjects because that's what helps you to build your skills up. If you only draw faces, human faces, from the very beginning, you are severely limiting yourself in your ability, and you are basically railroading yourself into only drawing one thing for the rest of your days. Even if it's something you don't have a particular interest in, or it's something that you're perhaps not that fond even of the idea of drawing, it's important to try a cross section of different subjects, because number one, it helps you broaden out your skill set, and secondly as well, it helps you find preferences for things. I'm at a stage now where I know I don't like drawing architectural things. I don't like drawing buildings. I really don't like drawing cityscapes. I don't like cities anyway, which I think is quite amusing that I don't like drawing them either. I did try though, and I spent a good few hours trying, and I thought, oh, this isn't for me. But again, I learned some basic skills from that on things like perspective, which was really helpful in drawing other things too. So if you're a person that's not sure what sort of things you would like to draw on a more regular basis, it's a really good way of just exploring, and it's kind of the fun part of learning to draw as well. I've tried drawing a few landscapes. I'm not particularly excited about them, but they're okay. But I learned a lot from drawing landscapes as well. I like to draw things from nature mostly, which makes sense because I'm a farmer. I like to be outside, and obviously animals, I like to draw animals too. I don't like drawing people. I don't like people. And I don't mean I don't like drawing them, I just don't like people. So yeah, by all means explore, try different things, draw a banana tree, draw an aeroplane, draw some boats, go down to the water and draw a sunset. You know, just broaden those horizons and give it a bash. I always say I will try anything once, and at least then I can say that I've tried and I know I can say whether I like it or I don't like it. So that is, I would say that's probably one of the most valuable out of these 10 tips, is have a go, at least have a go at things. I have real trouble with noses and ears and I still practice them. I don't like drawing them, but if someone said to me right now, Jem, draw an ear, I could draw an ear. It probably wouldn't be a very good one, but I can draw one. And last and most importantly, this is the most important tip out of all of them, and that is to be kind to yourself. And I really genuinely mean this. I see, I don't know, dozens of posts a week on social media about people basically having a little pity party to themselves because they see all this artwork on Instagram, on, you know, Pinterest, in the social groups on Facebook, and they go, oh, I'm so demotivated because all this artwork's amazing and I've only been drawing for 10 seconds and I'm never going to be that good. There is absolutely no reason to take that mindset, and if you have that mindset, which is a defeatist mindset, there is no point in learning to draw. Forget it, because you are going to torture yourself forevermore. The things you have to remember is, number one, you're a beginner. Number two, no one has to see your artwork unless you want to show it to them. Therefore, you're only going to be criticising and competing with yourself. So there's no fanfare, there's no disaster. There's so much support. See, that's the joys of the internet. It's one of the good things about the internet. If you need help with something, or you're not sure about something, or you just want to dip your toe in the water and gauge what people think, there's a gajillion places you can do that. So you can try a million things. It doesn't matter if you mess them up. Who's going to see it? You're not going to like twist your own arm up your back and go and say, look how bad an artist I am. Remember that you're a beginner. Remember that you've never done this before. It's like anything else. Think of toddlers learning to walk or potty or whatever. It takes time. But you do not have to pressure yourself into these things just because you see X amount of posts on Facebook or whatever. You're in control of it. It's your hobby and it's your skill. It's up to you how you do it and what you do with it. So please, 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 when you scroll through Instagram and you see all this amazing artwork, make it a catalyst. Turn it into your motivation, turn it into your inspiration. My Instagram is only filled with other artists. I want my Instagram feed full of awesome art so that I can flick through. It makes me really happy, it's really uplifting, and I see work that is a million times better than mine, and I see that every time I log on and scroll, and I use that as inspiration and motivation to become a better artist, because when I sketch, when I draw, it makes me happy. There is a sense of calm within me, and I can see the fruits of my labour over time, and I've had to learn to be patient with that. So take the time and invest in yourself. It's a hobby, it's meant to be fun, remember? So don't be hard on yourself because you drew a circle and it's not a circle. There's a gajillion artists who still can't draw a circle and they've been drawn for like a century. So take that time to remember that you're a novice and that what you're doing is learning, and things will improve, and you only have to mark yourself against yourself. But don't be hard on yourself and don't be demotivated by what you see out there on the web, because you will get there one day. But if you are going to beat yourself up every single day, very quickly you are not going to enjoy what you're doing and you will give up, and that is the only sense of failure that you will ever get, is if you give up. If you keep trying, then you've not failed. And on that note, I'm going to get down off my high horse now because I think that's quite enough. But I really hope that these tips have helped you and inspired you and motivated you to go and pick up a pencil and scribble on a piece of paper. It is one of life's simple joys. doesn't matter whether you can draw or not, because if you keep doing it, one day you'll be able to turn around and say, yeah, I can draw. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. If you want to comment on anything, please feel free to drop them down in the comments, and we shall see you soon back in the cave for another video. Have a good day, everyone. Bye for now.